All in Sports Network. We love sports.
It is Thursday, July 3rd, 24 hours away from one of the best holidays on the entire planet. I love the 4th of July, big time patriot. Love the fireworks, love the pageantry, love the hot dog eating contest, no matter how disgusting and how much it makes me sick just to watch them. I love watching it every year. But yeah, no, love my country, love the red, white, and blue, love to celebrate it every year. But any big plans, Jake, before we get this episode going?
Smoker's going to be going all weekend. That's going to be the big thing. And then probably just shoot off some fireworks and hang out with we're not going anywhere. We're tired of traveling after last month or so. So just have some friends coming over, and the main thing is the whole weekend. I will be putting in work on the Smoker, sending you a bunch of delicious looking pictures of things that you won't be able to eat.
I love getting pictures of your meat. My favorite thing to get pictures of.
I tossed that one up to you.
that was an easy one. Yeah. But hey, today's episode is going to be a little bit of a fun one. It's just basically going to be me ranting, but Jake's on board with this rant. Jake, I think agrees with me. I feel like he does. This is your daily fix for all things Texas Longhorns. I'm Tanner Carlson. That's Jake Jimerson. Last episode of the week is today. We're not going to come out with an episode for tomorrow, giving everybody the day off from listening to us, and then us also recording an extra episode. So, but this is All In Horns, presented to you by Rogue Sports Network. Today's episode, let's just rant about the fact that preseason polls going into a season mean nothing and are absolutely ridiculous, and how the AP poll just doesn't venture away even from the original polls that they set in the preseason, that they have no idea how good these teams actually are or how bad these teams actually are. Florida State, a perfect example, and they just won't drop them out of the rankings until like week 5. Like, guys, after week 1, the rankings can be like the 25th best team in the country, whoever you have ranked number 25. If they look like a top 3 team, put them number 3 week 2. Like, there's no reason to even have rankings, in my opinion, Jake, until week 4. I don't think any team in the country should be ranked until week 4. You give them 3 weeks. Week 4 is the first week of rankings, but I know that's why they do it for week 1, so they can have number 1 Texas playing number 2 Ohio State, vice versa, whatever that looks like. Number 3 Clemson taking on number 5 LSU week 1, and they can sell tickets, they can market it on the big networks. I know that's why they do it. I completely disagree with it in every fiber of my being. I can't stand it, because then you're going to get a top 5 win against an LSU team who might end up unranked by the end of the season. And guess what? That top 5 win, baby, is still going to be there to push on that ranking from the AP poll. Now, the committee does change this a little bit. However, I still feel as though the committee bases their rankings initially off of the AP poll.
Whether they realize it or not, too.
Yeah.
I mean, it just naturally happens. It's just like how big of a win we felt that win at Michigan was, which we would have felt that way if there wasn't polls, just because they were defending national champs. But the polls still play into making that feel that way.
And here's the thing, too, is you still know Clemson LSU week 1 is a big game. You still know Texas Ohio State.
Texas Ohio State
is a big game. You don't need a ranking system to tell anybody who's a college football fan that that's a big game week 1.
And and I think your biggest issue with it, not to speak for you, but I think what we would agree on is probably the biggest issue is what you mentioned and how it dictates the flow of the rankings throughout the whole season.
Yep.
And you have an Indiana team who it takes forever to just get into the polls when they're undefeated and blowing people out. But then you're taking forever to drop out Florida State, who can't beat anyone with a pulse.
Yeah.
It makes it by week 4 or 5, it's really frustrating when you look at the polls and you're like, why is this team not number 12 or something, because they're undefeated and they're behind a 3-loss Florida State team just because Florida State started the year number 4. If you look terrible after a few weeks, or even 2 weeks. I mean, you could argue Florida State could have been dropped out of the rankings or at least down to 25 after week 1 last year, but you're never going to see that big of a drop from a team.
And it should be as simple as, man, they looked really bad. And guess what? If we drop them down to 25 and the next week they beat the following team in week 2 by 65 and they look like the best team in the country, guess what? We'll move them back up to 12 or 11 or 10. Like, you don't have to just stick with where they're at early on in the season. Now, yes, come week 7, week 8, those giant shifts in where the rankings are probably going to slow down a little bit. They're not going to be as drastic, and that's perfectly fine. They probably around middle of the season is where you get a good feel of what the top 25 should look like. But man, it is so frustrating to see them just not budge and just be so stubborn and hard-headed of giving these teams basically free top 25 wins under their belt to attribute to their resume, when by the end of the season, those teams aren't ranked anymore, and then it's like, okay, well, were they fraudulent, or was this team just that good and they had to play, a tougher schedule because the team that they lost to is really good at the end of the year?
Oh, you muted your mic. We got some type of mute happened. And he may have to maybe switch. There you go.
I think I'm back. Yeah. Sorry. It muted.
Oh, sorry. No, I had a lot of things. All of a sudden I just heard like 10 fireworks go off from people out here just fire. And I thought it was gunshots. So that's why I looked all startled.
Your neighborhood, you could never be too sure. I mean, not that you're in a
bad that is true. Whenever I've done overnight briskets on the offset, I don't live in the hood, but we live close. We're right, because we're in Kansas City, so you can be in a rich area and then go a block over and be in a very shady area. And we're right next to a very shady area, but we live not in a rich area, but a decent area.
You're in a nice enough area.
Yeah, and so, but we can hear the not good area.
Sure. Yeah, it happens.
So when I did an overnight brisket one time on my offset smoker, I was out at like 4 a.m. changing a log, and I just heard a bunch of gunshots and I heard sirens. I was like, yes, the peace and silence of gunfire at 4 a.m.
Love it. Nothing more relaxing than smoking a brisket and hearing gunshots going off with sirens in the background. But no, I think we've made our point, though, on the preseason polls. The way I would like it. Now, I'm a firm believer, if you're going to bitch and moan about something, you better have some sort of plan to back it up. And I truly think you don't come out with a full ranking until about week 4. Week 3 or week 4, you can come out with your first top 25 ranking. And I think there'd be some fun pageantry behind that as well. You can have a whole show that they like to do. You can promote it. You can make it a whole ranking week. And then now you see where your team falls after 3 weeks of play, and you're probably going to have a vague idea anyway. And you'll have all the talking heads. You'll have you and me on this podcast, Jake, the week before it comes out. Let's do our top 25 list. Who do we think is in the top 25? You'll have every media person talking about it. I think it's a good way to generate some more conversation around week 3, whenever there's typically those are kind of the lower end games. You get a lot of the week 1, week 2 games that are like the big non-conference games. By around week 3, getting into conference play, you're starting to play Rice regularly on your schedule. And so I think it'd be a perfect opportunity for college football to come out. And it needs to be done in basketball too, because basketball is really bad about it as well.
Yeah, basketball, it might be even more painful than football, just because you can lose a bunch of games and you're still just ranked. I mean, you'll be like 19 games in, and a team there's no business being ranked is ranked over a Dayton who's undefeated and has a couple good wins. That affects March Madness because they look at top wins, quadrant wins, all that stuff. Yeah. And so it's just,
who in the AP, like is the AP, is that just their sports department and they just vote on it? They just make up a poll? Like, what's the algorithm that they use?
I mean, there's a bunch of media members who have voting rights. It's kind of like, a Hall of Fame, a Heisman, whatever, where you have a bunch of people who are the voters on it. Because you have the media pool and you have the coaches pool. And so, you have the coaches who will vote on it, which also probably isn't that reliable.
No.
And then you have the media, which you're going to have biases no matter what. And that's always going to be a thing. But you feel like not having a top 20, I think it'd be more fun. But
Unless
the problem
you do
is
a
it's never going to
BCS
happen. Yeah. I mean, that was the good thing about the BCS, right? It was a computer system doing it. The BCS wasn't perfect, but I mean, I've said it from the start with the playoffs. I would never have a committee. I would have the BCS system, but with a playoff.
Yeah.
And that would be the system, because then you take feelings out of it.
And then you also don't necessarily have to do, because then you would get the Oklahomas beating, University of Texas, El Paso. You'd have Oklahoma beating them 85-0 just so they can get that point spread differential to be put into the computer system. You wouldn't necessarily have to have that algorithm put in there. You can have a different algorithm to better judge it. And now with AI technology, I would assume that would only be enhanced of
it wouldn't be that hard to do.
No.
I mean, you just make it to where when you're playing a team that's ranked outside of the top 50 of the system, that it doesn't, the point spread is just weighted way less for that, because beating a UTEP or Sam Houston or whoever by 80 shouldn't matter as much as beating an Ohio State by 2.
Absolutely.
And so you could very easily weight that system. I'm not a programmer. I guarantee you it wouldn't be that tough to do. I could probably make a spreadsheet that could do it better than the committee does it.
Yeah. Hey, before we go, I've got a quick fun little story. So I was heading into work on Monday morning, and I was behind this truck, and it was full Final Destination moment for me. And this guy didn't have anything tied down on his trailer. He had rebars, he had 2x4s, he had a wheelbarrow, he had, just a bunch of stuff. Nothing was tied down. And we're going on this bumpy back road, and everything's kind of bouncing. And I'm like, I'm going to stay back away from this guy because I don't trust what he has in his trailers. Very sturdy. So the rebars start bouncing up, and I can kind of see them kind of sliding back a little bit. I'm like, this is not going to end well. Then I see one specific one fall onto the road, and it's tail whipping, and it's sliding on the road. And so then I back up a little further. I've got people behind me, but I'm like, this thing is not about to go middle of my forehead, Final Destination style. Sure enough, couple sparks fly, one more big bounce. That whole rebar just flies out of the trailer, and it's flying all across the road, and it turns sideways. And I'm trying to kind of swerve, and I'm going probably about 20 at this point. And I'm 20, 30 feet behind this guy, but this thing's still rolling on the ground. I'm not able to tell what direction it's going. It does finally veer off to the side of the road. And then I go, and I'm kind of still behind him. I'm like, and this is a 1-lane road. This isn't like I can just pass him into the other lane. And so he finally goes and turns off and goes into a different town or whatever and gets off the road. And I drive past him, crisis averted. But all I could see was just me being in a movie, just that rebar just right in between my eyes. And just, I could just, it was almost as though I was in a Final Destination movie. But again, it was crisis averted. Now, any more equipment or materials that he lost off of that trailer, I have no idea, but it was extremely reckless.
I've never had a situation where it actually comes out, but I've had situations behind a car where it's like, I don't trust you. So I know what that feels like, but haven't actually fall. And this is the only bad thing about us having this podcast is I have to wait to get these stories from you. You'll just be like, oh, I got to tell you something. We'll wait until the podcast.
We'll wait till the pod.
So I don't get the text stories anymore. Now I have to wait until we record. So when the viewers hear it for the first time, I'm also hearing it for the first time.
And this story specifically, I didn't tell you. I didn't even say, hey, I have a story for the podcast. I didn't even mention it. This is just the first time that I
I saw your note on the doc, and I was like, how did I not hear this story already?
I needed to get it out, but I needed to put it on the podcast first. So, all right. that's going to do it for today's episode of All in Horns. Enjoy your 4th of July weekend. Spend it with friends and family. Have fun. Also be safe. Don't blow your hands off. It's probably not worth the fireworks. Or fingers, feet. Put it in reverse, Terry. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, welcome.
All in Sports Network. We love sports.